Rhaegal bowed before Jon Snow on the morning the dead were burned. Not lowered in exhaustion, as some later claimed, nor bent by a wound suffered beneath the moonlit clouds. The green dragon had eaten, slept, and shaken the frost from his wings before the sun rose above Winterfell's broken eastern tower. When Jon entered the courtyard, carrying no saddle and speaking no command, the beast turned from the carcass laid before him and crossed the stones. Men who had faced the dead stepped backward. Women who had stood upon the walls gripped spears with whitening hands. Rhaegal halted before Jon, breathed a river of smoke across the snow, and lowered his horned head until the point of his jaw rested upon the frozen ground. The courtyard became silent enough for Jon to hear the slow creak of leather beneath his gloves. He knew what the gathered soldiers saw. They did not see the bastard raised at Winterfell. They did not see the boy who had sat below the salt, the brother of Robb and Arya, the unwanted shadow at Lady Catelyn's table. They saw a man recently returned from death standing before a dragon that had chosen to kneel. That was more dangerous than any crown. Jon approached carefully. Rhaegal's scales were the color of pine needles beneath ice, dark green where the morning shadows held him, and bright as beaten bronze along his neck. The dragon's breath warmed Jon's face. When Jon placed his palm between the creature's eyes, a tremor passed through Rhaegal's enormous body, neither fear nor anger, but recognition. Behind him, someone whispered, "The old blood." Jon shut his eyes. He had heard those words too often since Sam and Bran had told him the truth. Aegon Targaryen, son of Rhaegar and Lyanna, lawful heir to a throne Jon had never desired. Every time the name was spoken, it seemed to belong to a dead prince whose bones had been placed inside Jon's skin. Rhaegal rumbled beneath his hand. "You know," Jon murmured. The dragon opened one bronze eye. Perhaps he did. Perhaps beasts knew nothing of crowns and lineages, only scent, courage, and the hidden kinship carried in blood. Ghost had never cared whether Jon was a bastard or a king. He had followed because Jon was Jon. The thought should have comforted him. It did not. Daenerys stood near the courtyard gate, wearing black wool beneath a pale fur mantle. Drogon loomed behind her, larger than Rhaegal. His wings folded like scorched sails. She did not look frightened. Daenerys Targaryen had crossed deserts, survived flames, shattered armies, and buried friends without permitting the world to see her fear. But Jon knew her well enough to recognize stillness when it was forced. "He has accepted you," she said. Jon withdrew his hand. "He let me ride him before. That is not what the North believes it witnessed." The Northern lords watched them from beneath wolf, bear, sunburst, merman, and flayed man banners from which the Bolton colors had been torn. Many had lost sons during the battle. Some had lost every fighting man they had brought to Winterfell. Their faces were hollow with grief, hunger, sleeplessness, and the dawning knowledge that surviving the dead had not ended their troubles. The stores were nearly empty. Roofs had burned. Livestock had been slaughtered to feed the armies. The Last Hearth was a tomb. Carhold had sent no raven in 6 days. Deepwood Moat had closed its gates against travelers. White Harbor complained that its grain ships had been seized by desperate coastal villages. The mountain clans had returned home without waiting for leave, carrying their wounded on doors. The army of the dead was gone, yet the North remained scattered like a shield struck by a giant's hammer. Sansa descended the courtyard steps. Her dark cloak moved behind her, the dire wolf clasp at her throat catching the light. "We need to speak inside," she said. Daenerys' gaze remained on Rhaegal. About the march south. About whether there is still a North capable of marching. The Queen turned then. "Cersei grows stronger while we delay. And our people grow weaker while you count them as soldiers." Jon heard the edge beneath Sansa's calm voice. Daenerys heard it too. Drogon shifted, scraping one black talon across the stones. Several men flinched. Jon stepped between the sisters before silence sharpened into something worse. "We'll speak in the Great Hall." "We have spoken," Daenerys said. "Again and again. Every day we remain here gives my enemies time." "None. They're not ready," Jon answered. Her eyes met his, Are you speaking as their commander or as their king? The title moved through the courtyard like wind stirring dead leaves. Jon felt every northern gaze settle upon him. Some eager, some uncertain, some afraid. I'm not a king. Rhaegal lifted his head behind him. No one appeared convinced. The council began beneath rafters blackened by smoke. The long tables had been pushed aside, leaving room for lords, captains, maesters, surviving knights, free folk leaders, and Daenerys commanders. Maps covered the central table. Small carved wolves marked keeps that had answered Winterfell's ravens. Far more stood unmarked. Tyrion Lannister explained the southern situation with the weary patience of a man trying to build a bridge while both shores threw stones at him. Cersei held King's Landing. The Golden Company had landed. Euron Greyjoy's fleet commanded much of the eastern coast. Every week of delay increased the Queen's strength. Davos Seaworth answered with lists of salted meat, horses, wagons, boots, and men unable to walk without canes. Grey Worm insisted the Unsullied could march within 3 days. Jon Royce said the Vale cavalry would require a fortnight. Tormund Giantsbane declared that no free folk would fight another southern queen while their children starved north of the wall. Lord Glover was absent. So were half the houses whose banners had once answered House Stark. Daenerys stood the head of the table. My armies came north when you asked. They fought your war. Our war, Arya said from the wall. Daenerys looked at her. Arya did not lower her eyes. The dead weren't stopping at the neck. The distinction changes nothing. I honored my promise. Now the North must honor its own. Sansa rested her fingertips upon the map. Dead men keep no promises. Neither do starving ones. We have food arriving by sea. Not enough, and little of it has passed White Harbor. Then command your lords to release it. Sansa's expression became almost gentle. Jon knew that expression. It was the look she wore when someone had offered her a weapon and failed to notice. That assumes they still obey. Murmurs answered her. Jon studied the map. The north was immense. Men could spend a lifetime crossing it and know only a fraction of its forests, rivers, hills, marshes, and frozen coast. Robb had united it once, but Robb had inherited old loyalties and called the banners against an enemy every northern house hated. Jon possessed neither advantage. Some lords remembered him as their king. Some called him Oathbreaker for kneeling to Daenerys. Others had never forgiven him for bringing the free folk through the wall. Survivors at the Last Hearth blamed Winterfell for abandoning them. House Glover had twice failed House Stark. Manderley merchants placed profit before duty, and poorer houses accused them of hoarding grain. The Karstarks had followed Ramsay until necessity forced them back beneath the direwolf. A raven could carry an order. It could not make men believe they shared a future. Jon's eyes moved to the small green dragon carved beside Winterfell. How long would it take a rider to reach the Last Hearth, he asked. 10 days in this weather, Davos said. Perhaps more. Rhaegal could reach it before midday. Daenerys' face changed. For what purpose? To find survivors. Then Carhold, White Harbor, Deepwood Moat, Bear Island if anyone remains there, the clans, the Crannogmen, every keep that has not answered. Sansa understood first. You mean to summon them yourself? No, summons are part of the problem. Tyrion leaned over the map. A royal progress by dragon, not royal. That distinction may prove difficult to maintain while descending from the clouds. Jon ignored him. They won't follow commands sent from a warm hall. They might follow a man who sees what's happened to them. Go. Daenerys crossed her arms. And what will this man promise? Food where we have it. Protection where they need it. A council at Winterfell where every house has a voice. You would delay the march indefinitely. I would give you an army instead of a trail of deserters. And while you fly from castle to castle, what tale will spread ahead of you? Her voice remained controlled, but each word carried heat. The lost son of Rhaegar, the Northern King, the dragon rider returning to claim his people. Nay, Tembile, I won't claim anything. You have never needed to. Others claim it for you." The room had become still. Jon wished she were wrong. He wished truth could be denied by refusing to speak it. Yet he had watched men place crowns upon those who tried to flee them, and knives in those who accepted too eagerly. Sansa looked from Jon to Daenerys. Whatever she thought, she concealed it. Bran spoke from beside the hearth. "The North will break if he does not go." Everyone turned toward him. His pale eyes rested upon flames no one else could read. Daenerys asked, "Is that a prophecy?" "No. It is what men do when fear keeps them apart." Jon had once found his brother's strange calm comforting. Now Bran's certainty made the room feel colder. Daenerys studied Jon for a long moment. The anger in her face softened, though the fear beneath it remained. 10 days, she said. "You will have 10 days to bring your lords here. The North cannot be crossed in 10 days. With a dragon it can. Seeing a castle isn't the same as winning its trust. 10 days, Jon. Then we march." He heard the command in her voice. So did the North. Jon looked at Sansa. She gave the smallest shake of her head, warning him not to challenge the Queen before everyone. Arya's eyes were less cautious. Tormund looked as though he hoped someone would overturn the table. Jon bowed his head. 10 days. Daenerys relaxed by a fraction. Jon looked down at the map again and knew he had lied. Not about going, not about returning. He had lied because no map could measure what the North required, and no queen in the world could command grief to mend itself within 10 days. Before dawn the next morning, Jon climbed onto Rhaegal's back. Davos had argued that he should take guards. Tormund had demanded to come despite the obvious difficulty of placing a giant bearded free folk warrior upon a dragon. Sansa had prepared letters for every lord. Arya had offered no letter, only a dragon-glass dagger hidden inside Jon's boot. Daenerys met him near the outer gate. Snow lay between them. Rhaegal crouched behind Jon, impatient smoke curling from his nostrils. Drogon watched from the wall. "Return to me," Daenerys said. Jon heard more than affection in the words. He heard an appeal, a command, and the loneliness of someone who had crossed half the world, only to discover that victory had given her another thing to fear. "I will." You could end their doubts in a day. How? "Tell them who you are. Tell them you support my claim. Make them understand there is no choice between us." Jon looked toward Winterfell's towers. Sansa stood upon the battlements, a dark shape against the gray morning. Northern soldiers gathered below her, pretending not to watch. "There is always a choice," he said. Daenerys' jaw tightened. Jon placed a hand against Rhaegal's neck and climbed. The dragon rose beneath him, vast muscles shifting like stones under a living hill. When the wings opened, the courtyard disappeared beneath green shadow. Rhaegal sprang. Winterfell fell away in a storm of snow. Jon saw the castle whole as few living men ever had. Broken walls, burned courtyards, black earth beyond the trenches, burial pyres standing in endless rows. Beyond them stretched the Wolf's Wood, the King's Road, frozen rivers, villages hidden among pines, and a land so large that every throne in the south seemed small enough to fit inside one of its valleys. Rhaegal climbed toward the clouds. Jon leaned close to the dragon's neck, the cold cutting tears from his eyes. He had no crown, no decree, no certainty that the people below would accept him. He had only a dragon, a divided country, and 10 days to teach the North that power did not always descend from the sky to burn. Sometimes it came to listen. The Last Hearth appeared beneath the clouds as a black wound in a white world. Rhaegal circled once. Jon saw shattered roofs, a gate hanging from one hinge, and the remains of the great hall standing open to the sky. Snow had filled the courtyard where House Umber's banners once flew. No smoke rose from the chimneys. He had expected ruin. He had not expected movement. Figures scattered between the buildings as Rhaegal descended. Men fled beneath broken carts. Women dragged children into cellars. Someone loosed an arrow that struck the dragon's breast and snapped against his scales. Rhaegal screamed. The sound rolled across the hills like a mountain breaking. Green wings beat snow into a blinding cloud. And heat gathered in the dragon's throat. Jon pulled hard against the ridged scales. No! Rhaegal's jaws opened. Orange light shone between his teeth. Rhaegal, no! For one terrible heartbeat, Jon felt how simple it would be. A breath, a flash, and the frightened people below would become ash. Every lord in the north would hear that the Dragon King had punished those who raised arms against him. Rhaegal shut his mouth. Smoke poured through his nostrils. The dragon landed beyond the outer wall, crushing a pine beneath one claw. Jon waited until the wings folded, then slid down and walked toward the gate alone. The archer had vanished. Faces watched through cracks in boards and gaps between stones. Jon removed Longclaw and laid it in the snow. "I came from Winterfell," he called. No answer. "My name is Jon." A voice from inside shouted, "We know your name. Then you know I was raised in the north. You left us to die." The words struck harder than the arrow. Jon remained where he was. "Hey." The gate opened just far enough for 3 people to emerge. The first was an old man wearing umber mail over layers of patched wool. His left hand was missing, the stump wrapped in dirty linen. Beside him stood a broad-shouldered woman with a wood axe, and a boy who could not have seen more than 12 winters. All 3 looked past Jon toward Rhaegal. The dragon lowered his head, watching. The old man spat into the snow. "Last dragon that came here brought the dead. He came to fight them. And where was he when they crossed our fields?" Jon had no answer that would not sound like an excuse. Winterfell had called the Umbers south. Some had come. Others remained to gather people from distant villages and were trapped when the dead arrived. Jon had known there would be losses. Commanders always knew. Knowledge did not make the survivors less abandoned. "How many are left?" he asked. "Enough to bury, not enough to count." "Do you have food?" The woman laughed once without humor. "Do dragons eat snow?" The boy stared at Jon. His cheeks were hollow. Frost clung to his eyelashes. Jon looked beyond them. He saw a hide stretched between 2 posts with strips cut from it, a cooking pot containing gray water, and a dead horse whose bones had been scraped clean. "I brought none," Jon admitted. The old man's expression turned bitterly triumphant, as if Jon had confirmed everything he believed. "Then fly back to your queen. I can reach Winterfell before dark. I'll return with what the dragon can carry." "Nay. Hey. A sack of grain for a ruined house. As many journeys as it takes." The woman tightened her grip on the axe. "Why?" "Because I should have come sooner." A child began crying somewhere behind the gate. The old man studied Jon. "Pretty words. I have no prettier ones." The boy stepped forward despite the woman's attempt to stop him. "Can it make fire?" Rhaegal exhaled smoke. Jon glanced toward a stone well in the courtyard. Ice sealed its opening. "He can." The survivors retreated when Jon retrieved Longclaw and approached the dragon. He climbed only high enough to reach the saddle straps Daenerys craftsmen had fitted, then guided Rhaegal toward the wall. The dragon resisted being led like a horse, but Jon spoke to him until he lowered his head over the well. "Small," Jon warned. "Only the ice." Rhaegal growled. "A little flame." What emerged was little only by a dragon's measure. Green-tinged fire struck the well. Ice exploded into steam. Men shouted and threw themselves aside. The stone rim cracked, but water churned beneath it, dark and liquid. Rhaegal lifted his head proudly. The boy laughed. It was the first joyful sound Jon had heard since arriving. By midday, people emerged from every hiding place. There were 83 survivors within the castle, and perhaps twice that number scattered among nearby woods. Most were not Umbers. Free folk families had crossed south after the wall fell and taken shelter wherever they could. Crofters from abandoned farms had come north, hoping the army of the dead had passed them by. 3 wounded Night's Watchmen lay inside a smokehouse, one delirious with fever. The old man called himself Harlan, uncle to a minor Umber cousin slain at Winterfell. The woman was his daughter, Mara. Her husband had died holding the gate while she led children through a tunnel beneath the kitchens. They showed Jon a cellar filled with bodies frozen too hard to move. They showed him claw marks on stone and doors splintered from outside. They showed him a nursery in which 6 small beds stood empty. Jon listened. He did not speak of his own losses. Grief was not grain to be weighed against another measure. He carried theirs because they required someone to carry it. Near sunset, horns sounded beyond the trees. The survivors rushed for weapons until a familiar roar answered them. Tormund emerged from the forest at the head of perhaps 200 free folk, dragging sledges loaded with roots, dried fish, fur, and 3 slaughtered elk. "You fly too fast," Tormund called. Ice had formed throughout his beard. A man should not need wings merely to keep his promises. Jon met him outside the gate. "Where did you find all this?" "Stole some. Hunted some. Convinced a very angry woman to lend the rest." "Nutty. Donna. You followed me?" "Someone had to make certain you did not become too southern." Tormund embraced him hard enough to bruise ribs. The free folk halted when they saw the castle survivors. Old hatred passed between the groups. Umbers had fought wildlings for thousands of years. Some among the free folk had lost kin to Umber axes. Some inside the castle had watched raiders carry away daughters, sheep, and food. Harlan stepped onto the wall. "You'll not enter." Tormund looked up. "Then you'll freeze while we eat outside. This is Umber land. Looks like dead men's land." Hands tightened around weapons. Jon moved between them, weary anger rising inside him. Enough. Neither side listened. He climbed onto a broken block of stone. "The dead came for all of you," he shouted. "They did not ask which side of the wall your grandfather was born on. They did not care whether you kept the old gods in a castle or beneath a tree. They would have taken every living thing here and made one army of your bones." Silence gathered unevenly. Jon pointed toward the ruined hall. "You can keep your hatred and die with it, or you can open that gate and live." Harlan's one hand curled into a fist. "You command House Umber now?" "No. You speak as though you do." "I speak as someone tired of burning children." The old man's gaze moved to the pyres beyond the castle. Jon had not noticed them from the sky. Small mounds beneath the snow, marked with stones. Mara lowered her axe first. "We need their food," she said. A free folk woman answered, "We need their walls." Tormund grinned. "There? A marriage already?" No one laughed, but the gate opened. That night, free folk slept beneath Umber roofs. Men who had once hunted one another shared bowls, because there were not enough to keep separate. Rhaegal lay beyond the wall, his body shielding the eastern side from the wind. Children crept close enough to feel the heat radiating from his scales. Jon sat beside Harlan in the broken hall. "You think this unites us?" the old man asked. "No. Then what was the purpose?" "To keep you alive until something can." Harlan drank melted snow from a wooden cup. "The North chose you once. The North needed a commander. It chose a king." Jon looked toward the doorway, where Rhaegal's green shape filled the night beyond the walls. I knelt. To a woman most of us had never seen. She came when I asked. So did we. The accusation remained between them. Jon could not deny it. The northern houses had answered his call, though not all, and not eagerly. They had bled at Winterfell. Daenerys had sacrificed armies and a dragon to save them, but the North measured loyalty through older wounds. "What would you have me do?" Jon asked. Harlan considered him. "Come when there is no war." Jon frowned. "Kings always come when they need men. Lords come when taxes are due. You came when the battle was finished and saw what remained. Do that elsewhere." Jon thought of the 10 days Daenerys had given him. 8.5 remained. At dawn he returned to Winterfell, loaded Rhaegal with sacks of barley and smoked meat, and flew north again. He made the journey 4 times. On the 2nd, Davos came strapped behind him, swearing at every gust. On the 3rd, they carried a maester and medicine. On the 4th, Jon brought iron tools, nails, and 2 masons who turned pale whenever Rhaegal moved. The dragon could not carry enough to restore the Last Hearth, but everyone between Winterfell and the northern hills saw him trying. Ravens began arriving before Jon departed for Carhold. One reported that House Mormont's remaining women had opened Bear Island stores to coastal refugees. Another said the mountain clans had halted their return and awaited Jon's word. A third came from White Harbor demanding that Winterfell stop using royal authority to seize grain. The final raven bore no seal. Its message contained 7 words. "The dead are gone. The hunger remains." Jon read it twice. When he mounted Rhaegal, Harlan and Tormund stood together outside the gate. Neither looked pleased by the arrangement. That, Jon thought, was perhaps the beginning of peace. Not friendship. Not forgiveness. Only 2 men who disliked each other more than they feared standing side by side. Rhaegal beat his wings and rose above the Last Hearth. Below, Umbers and Free Folk worked together to clear snow from the Great Hall. A green dragon banner had not appeared over the walls. Neither had the crowned wolf. They had raised 2 pieces of cloth instead. One bore a giant breaking chains. The other displayed a simple white tree. From the sky, the banners looked small, yet they flew from the same tower. White Harbor smelled of salt, smoke, fish, horse dung, and fear. Rhaegal's shadow crossed the outer harbor shortly after noon. Bells rang along the seawall. Sailors abandoned ropes. Merchants ducked beneath carts. Crossbowmen rushed onto towers until Jon guided the dragon toward an empty stretch of shore beyond the city gates. Even there, hundreds followed. They came at a distance, first as specks moving along the walls and roads, then as a gathering crowd. Fishermen in sealskin cloaks, dock workers with hooks at their belts, noble retainers in polished mail, starving villagers wrapped in blankets, merchants wearing heavy rings, and children who pushed through every gap to see the drip. Rhaegal watched them with the alertness of a cat surrounded by mice. Davos climbed down behind Jon and bent over with both hands upon his knees. "I've sailed through storms that snapped masts like kindling," he said, "and I would gladly endure 3 of them before riding that beast again. You said the same after the first journey. I was younger then. It was yesterday. A dragon ages a man." A line of Manderley knights approached beneath blue-green banners. Their captain announced that Lord Wyman waited inside the city, but had requested the dragon remain beyond the walls. "Requested?" Jon asked. The captain looked toward Rhaegal. Most humbly, Jon left the dragon with Davos and entered White Harbor on foot. The city had escaped the dead, yet war had reached it in other forms. Refugees filled alleys near the Wolf's Den. Families slept beneath overturned boats. Men argued outside bakeries guarded by spears. The windows of grain warehouses had been boarded, and armed watchmen stood upon their roofs. Jon saw hunger everywhere, but not equally. In the richer quarter, tables displayed hot pies and smoked lamprey. In the shadow of the walls, a woman divided 1 onion between 4 children. The crowd recognized Jon before he reached the new castle. "King in the North," someone called. Jon did not turn. Others took up the cry. Not everyone. Some shouted, "Dragon bastard!" One old sailor demanded to know why Winterfell had taken Manderley grain without payment. A woman threw a handful of dirty snow that struck Jon's cloak. The guards moved to seize her. "Leave her," Jon said. She stood trembling, defiant and terrified. "My sons died for you," she shouted. Jon stopped. The street quieted. "What were their names?" Her anger faltered. Edric and Marlon. At Winterfell? I'm sorry. Sorry does not feed their children. No, Jon said. It doesn't. He continued toward the castle, carrying the weight of 2 more names. Wyman Manderley waited in the merman's court, older and frailer than Jon remembered, though still immense within his carved chair. Around him stood sons, cousins, merchants, captains, stewards, and lesser lords whose wealth depended upon the harbor. Sansa's letter opened on the table beside him. Wyman smiled when Jon entered. Your Grace, I'm not a king. Then the North has grown careless with its titles. Open my sister's letter. I know what it says. Then answer it. Wyman's smile disappeared. Winterfell asks for grain. Carhold asks for grain. The Last Hearth asks for grain. Every fishing village between here and Eastwatch asks for grain. And every ship that enters my harbor brings half the cargo it carried before the war. Nay, Nabin, Ebimande, Eloy. You have warehouses full. I have a city full of mouths. Your guards beat hungry people outside those warehouses. My guards prevent riots that would destroy the stores in a night. Jon placed both palms on the table. The Last Hearth has children eating boiled leather. And White Harbor has children eating rats. The Manderley Lord gestured toward his stewards. Ledgers were placed before Jon, filled with columns of figures. He understood little of their accounting, but Davos had taught him enough during Stannis' campaign to recognize shortages. The city possessed grain, though less than rumor claimed. Enough to feed White Harbor for several moons if rationed carefully. Not enough to supply every northern keep through winter. You seized 3 ships bound for Carhold, Jon said. They entered my harbor during a blockade. They carried food purchased by the Karstarks. They carried food whose sellers had not been paid, because the Karstark treasury was burned. Then who pays the sailors? The farmers? The families of men murdered by pirates while bringing it north? They say. Wyman leaned forward, breath heavy. Honor is easy for those who do not tally its cost. Jon felt anger stir, then forced it down. He had not come to trade accusations. What do you need? The question surprised the room. Wyman narrowed his eyes. Need? To release the grain. Payment. Dort. Winterfell has little coin. Then timber, iron, wool, salt rights, protection for the shipping lanes. From whom? Greyjoys, sell sails, desperate men flying no banner at all. Jon looked toward the tall windows. Beyond them, masts filled the harbor like a winter forest. Give me the names of the captains willing to sail north. To what end? Food to Carhold and the Last Hearth. Half paid now in timber rights. Half after the next harvest. Winterfell guarantees the debt. One merchant laughed. With what treasury? With mine. The room became silent. Jon possessed no treasury in truth. A few chests of coin remained from his time as king, gifts and levies not yet spent. It would cover only a fraction. Wyman understood. And when your coffer's empty, I'll owe you. A dragon rider's promise? A Stark's. He had not intended to use the name that way. The effect was immediate. Northern faces changed when honor was invoked. Not because honor always ruled them, but because they wished to believe it could. Wyman tapped thick fingers against his chair. White Harbor releases 6,000 bushels, he said. 3 to Winterfell, 1 to Carhold, 1 to the Last Hearth, 1 divided among the coastal villages. In return, House Stark grants logging rights along the White Knife for 7 years and guarantees armed protection for my ships. No, 5 years. 6. Done. A steward whispered urgently into Wyman's ear. The old lord listened, then smiled faintly. There remains the matter of transport. Jon looked toward the window again. By sunset, Rhaegal had become the most feared dock worker in the history of White Harbor. The first attempt ended with a torn cargo net and 6 sacks of barley falling into the sea. The second frightened 3 horses into breaking their traces. On the third, sailors secured a great sling between iron hooks fitted to Rhaegal's harness. The dragon disliked it. He snapped at ropes, scorched a crane, and nearly threw Jon into the harbor when the load shifted beneath him. Yet after patient effort, Rhaegal rose, carrying enough grain to fill 4 wagons. The crowd watched from the quays. Jon flew the cargo beyond the city and lowered it beside waiting carts, where Manderley guards joined northern teamsters. Then he returned for another load. And another. By nightfall, the quays no longer fell silent when the dragon approached. Dock workers shouted instructions. Children cheered whenever the green wings passed overhead. A group of fishermen began wagering on how many sacks Rhaegal could lift. Jon saw something changing in their faces. A dragon remained terrible. It could burn ships, shatter walls, and turn armies into smoke. But terror was not the only thing strength could inspire. Used differently, the same wings that carried destruction could cross roads blocked by snow. The same fire that ruined harvests could thaw wells. Power became what the hand guiding it chose. The lesson was not lost on Jon. Nor, he suspected, on those watching him. Mara arrived from the Last Hearth on the second morning with 12 riders and a sledge train. Harlan had sent her as his representative, trusting no raven to speak for the hungry. She entered the merman's court wearing patched mail and laid a strip of boiled horsehide upon Wyman's table. "This is what our children ate while your grain sat behind locked doors." Manderley men shouted. Mara did not flinch. Wyman lifted the leather between 2 fingers. "And if I emptied my stores, what would my children eat next moon?" Jon let them argue. At first, both spoke only in accusations inherited from the dead. Umbers called Manderley soft merchants who grew fat while harder houses guarded the frontier. Manderley replied that Umbers squandered lives and expected richer neighbors to repair the damage. Jon made each name what they had lost. Wyman named ships, cousins, sons, and men killed at the Red Wedding. Mara named villages erased in a single night. By the time darkness filled the windows, neither had forgiven the other. But they understood the size of the same ruin. A compact emerged. House Manderley would send grain north. Umber survivors and free folk would provide timber, furs, and armed escorts along the King's Road. Carhold would restore the eastern watchtowers. White Harbor smiths would supply tools at cost until the next harvest. Not friendship. Need. Arranged honestly. Jon sealed the agreement with gray wax, stamped by a direwolf signet Sansa had placed among his letters. As he pressed the seal, he wondered whether he had the right. He wondered more whether rights mattered when children were starving. That night, a raven arrived from Winterfell. Daenerys' message was brief. 6 days remained. Jon stood upon the seawall, reading it beneath torchlight. Rhaegal slept on the beach, his green body curled around the grain nets. The city glittered behind Jon. Beyond the harbor, darkness covered the water. Davos joined him. "She will not like what you are doing." She wanted the North ready to march. She wanted obedience. "You are building loyalty." Jon folded the message. "There's a difference. A great one. Obedience ends when men stop fearing punishment. Loyalty often survives the grave. I don't want them loyal to me." Davos looked amused and sad at once. That has never stopped anyone. Below them, workers loaded the first convoy for Carhold. Manderley guards checked wheels beside Umber riders. Free folk hunters argued with merchants over the value of fox pelts. Everyone complained. Everyone worked. Jon looked north toward lands hidden beyond the horizon. "How many castles can we reach in 6 days?" "On that creature? Most of them." "How many can we unite?" Davos followed his gaze. "That depends upon whether you mean to unite them for your queen, your sister, or yourself." Jon had no answer. The sea wind carried Rhaegal's sleeping breath up the wall, warm and faintly scented with smoke. Far below, a group of children had drawn a dragon and spilled flour upon the quay. The creature's wings stretched across the stones, and beneath it they had placed a wolf. Not fighting, flying together. Bear Island did not bow to dragons. Its people greeted Rhaegal with every spear they possessed. Jon saw them lining the rocky shore as the dragon descended through sleet. Women in ring mail, old men wearing bear claw necklaces, boys and girls carrying hunting bows, fishermen holding long gaffs as though they intended to drag the beast from the sky. Behind them stood a hall patched after fire, its roof covered in fresh timber. No banner flew above it. House Mormont's bear had been torn during the battle and wrapped around Lyanna's body before she was burned. Jon felt her absence before his boots touched the ground. Rhaegal landed upon a ridge overlooking the bay. The islanders did not flee, though several shifted when the dragon's talons split stone. A woman came forward wearing a bearskin cloak. She was perhaps 40, broad-faced and gray-eyed with Lyanna's fierce mouth. A spear rested in her right hand. "Jon Snow," she called. Jon descended alone. "Lyessa Mormont." "Lady Lyessa, until my kin choose otherwise. I'm sorry for your loss." "We have many. Name which one?" "Lyanna." Her expression did not soften. "You remember her now?" The accusation was familiar. Jon wondered how many times he would hear it before the journey ended. She died saving Winterfell. She died because grown men placed a sword in a child's hand and called her brave. No one behind Lyssa spoke. Several lowered their eyes. Jon remembered the small figure standing defiantly in Winterfell's hall, shaming older lords into battle. He had admired her. Everyone had. Admiration did not change what she had been. "Hey," he said. "She did." Lyessa's spear shifted. Most rulers, Jon knew, answered such challenges with justification. They spoke of necessity, honor, duty, and the cruel demands of war. All of those things might be true. None returned the dead. "I should have sent her home," he said. Sleet tapped against armor. Lyessa studied his face, searching for falsehood. "You were her king." "I was. And then you gave away her kingdom." Jon looked toward the sea. "I did what I thought would save it." "Did it? The dead are gone. So is she." A horn sounded from the western path. Riders approached beneath a dark banner marked by a silver fist. House Glover had come from Deepwood Moat. 30 armed men escorting Galbart Glover, an aging cousin who had inherited what remained after Robert's illness. The Mormonts raised weapons. Jon stepped between the groups. Lyessa spat at the ground. "Cowards." Galbart dismounted stiffly. "Children." A stone struck his shield. Mormont voices rose. House Glover had refused the final summons to Winterfell, claiming its people could not survive another abandonment of Deepwood Moat. Their absence had preserved some of their strength, while Mormont warriors died against the dead. No northern grievance was ever singular. The Mormonts remembered Glover men who failed them. The Glovers remembered Ironborn raids during which Winterfell had not come quickly enough. Both remembered Robb's death, Bolton rule, wildling attacks, and promises made by lords who never saw their shores. Jon had summoned Galbart after learning that Deepwood possessed timber and boats Bear Island desperately needed. He had not expected the man to arrive while Jon remained there. Perhaps Sansa had arranged it. The thought bore her touch. Lyessa advanced. "You kept your swords while our girls died." Galbart's men reached for weapons. "We protected our own," he said. "So did every craven hiding beneath his bed. You speak boldly for a house with 20 warriors left." Jon stepped between their blades. "Inside," he ordered. Galbart laughed. "You said you were no king." "I'm not." "Then by what right do you command us?" Rhaegal roared from the ridge. Every spear trembled. Jon turned toward the dragon. "Not by his." That quieted them more effectively than the roar. He looked at Galbart. "You came because Deepwood needs Mormont fishing boats." The older man's face tightened. Jon faced Lyessa. "You need Glover timber before the next storm tears down your hall. We can cut our own. Half your forest burned. We will freeze before begging them. And we will starve before helping these island savages," Galbart replied. "Then you can both explain it to your dead." Jon walked toward the hall without waiting to see whether they followed. They did. The council lasted through the afternoon and accomplished nothing. Every offer became an insult. Every memory became a weapon. Lyessa demanded that House Glover publicly confess cowardice. Galbart demanded repayment for ships lost defending Bear Island during an older raid. Mormont women mocked the value of Glover courage. Glover men whispered that Lyanna had died because her own family enjoyed the glory of placing a child in command. Jon listened until anger became exhaustion. Davos would have found practical terms. Sansa would have discovered secrets and turned them into leverage. Tyrion might have made both sides laugh long enough to sign something. Jon possessed no such talents. He finally left them shouting and walked outside. The storm had worsened. Waves battered the black rocks. Rhaegal crouched with his wings wrapped around his body, glaring at the sea as though offended by its refusal to burn. A fisherman ran from the shore. Boats in the ice. Jon followed his pointing hand. 3 vessels struggled beyond the bay. Wind had driven broken sheets of sea ice around them, trapping their hulls between moving walls. Men hacked with axes while waves pushed the floes tighter. One mast had already snapped. Mormont families rushed toward the water. Lyessa emerged from the hall and went pale. "My brothers." Galbart came behind her. The island possessed no ship large enough to reach them safely. Jon ran toward Rhaegal. The dragon resisted taking flight into the storm. His claws dug trenches through wet earth as wind struck his wings. Jon leaned low and urged him forward. Rhaegal leapt. Rain and sleet blinded Jon. The dragon fought for every span of height, green wings twisting beneath violent gusts. Below, the trapped boats rose and vanished among waves. Jon guided Rhaegal toward the nearest. Men screamed as the dragon descended. One threw himself overboard. Jon shouted for a rope, but the wind carried his words away. He circled again, lower, close enough that Rhaegal's wingtips struck spray from the water. A fisherman understood. He tied a line to the mast and hurled the other end upward. Jon missed. The rope vanished beneath the waves. Another man threw a coil. This time Jon caught it around his arm so hard the impact nearly pulled him from the saddle. He fastened it to the iron ring beneath Rhaegal's harness. "Fly!" The dragon beat his wings. The boat lurched. Timber groaned. Ice cracked along the bow. Rhaegal screamed and pulled harder. The rope went taut as a spear shaft. For several breaths, nothing moved. Then the boat tore free, sliding through broken ice behind the dragon. The shore erupted in cheers. Jon brought the first vessel into calmer water, released the line, and returned for the second. By then, Galbart's men had reached the beach. They carried Glover ropes thicker than those used by the islanders and waded into freezing surf to guide the boats between rocks. No one ordered them. The third ship was sinking. Rhaegal could not tow it without tearing the hull apart. Jon landed on a shelf of stone barely large enough for the dragon's claws and shouted for the crew to climb across the wing. Rhaegal snarled when the first fisherman touched him, but Jon kept one hand upon the dragon's neck. 12 men crossed. The final sailor was Lylessa's younger brother. A wave struck as he leapt. He vanished between dragon and hull. Galbart Glover, standing waist-deep in the sea, seized the man's arm when the current carried him shoreward. Others rushed to help. They dragged the half-drowned fisherman onto the rocks together. By nightfall, Every surviving crewman lay inside the hall wrapped in blankets. The storm tore away part of the patched roof, and Glover carpenters climbed into the rafters beside Mormont women to brace it with beams from their wagons. Lyessa sat near the hearth beside Galbart. Neither apologized. The North was not a land where apologies came easily. Its people preferred actions because words could be softened, twisted, or forgotten. Galbart placed a folded parchment upon the table. "Deepwood will provide timber," he said. "Enough for the hall, docks, and 12 new boats." Lyessa looked at him suspiciously. Half the catch from those boats for 3 years. 1, 2. She extended her hand. Galbart took it. Jon watched from across the room. No cheers followed. No one declared an ancient feud ended. The two houses remained proud, wounded, and entirely capable of hating one another again before morning. But when rain entered through the damaged roof, both moved their chairs to make room for the carpenters. A raven found Jon before dawn. It had flown through the storm from Winterfell and arrived half dead, one wing bleeding. The message bore Daenerys' seal. 4 days. Return at once if you expect the North to march. A second letter, hidden beneath the first, bore Sansa's hand. The clans are gathering. Carhold has opened its gates. White Harbor's first convoy reached Winterfell. Do not return yet. Jon burned both messages in the hearth, not from disrespect. He simply could not allow anyone to find them and decide which woman commanded him. Lyessa entered as the wax melted. "Your queen calls. And you stay. For now." She looked toward the sleepers filling her hall. "Lyanna believed in you. I know. Do not make her a fool." The words followed Jon into the storm. Rhaegal carried him eastward above the clouds, leaving Bear Island and Deepwood behind. Beneath him, 2 small boats crossed the channel in opposite directions. One carried Mormont fish toward the mainland. The other carried Glover timber toward the island. They passed midway between the shores. Neither lowered its banner. Neither turned back. The mountain clans refused to meet beneath a roof. They gathered in a valley where no castle stood, beneath peaks that pierced the clouds and an ancient weirwood twisted by centuries of wind. Its red leaves shivered above a face carved so deeply that snow filled the eyes. Rhaegal's arrival sent goats running across the slopes. The clans did not run. Wolves, Norries, Littles, Burleys, Harklays, and lesser families formed a broad circle around the tree. They wore no polished armor. Their mail was black with age, their cloaks sewn from wolf, goat, and shadowcat. Many had fought for Stannis. More had answered Jon's call during the Battle for Winterfell. Almost every clan had lost someone beneath the castle walls. Hugo Wool stood nearest the tree. He was old enough to remember 3 kings and broad enough to resemble a boulder wrapped in fur. "You bring a southern beast into the Gods' Valley," he said. "Rhaegal was born in the east. All lands are south from here." Jon dismounted. The dragon's claws sank into frozen earth. Clan warriors raised shields when Rhaegal looked toward them. Jon removed Longclaw, belt and scabbard together, and placed it beside the nearest stone. Then he unfastened his fur cloak and laid it over the sword. Murmurs passed through the circle. Hugo frowned. "What game is this?" "No game. You come without steel. I came to listen. Men listen better when cold." Jon understood the challenge. He removed the leather flying coat beneath his cloak. The mountain air cut through wool and mail at once. One of the younger chiefs laughed. Jon walked into the circle. Hugo studied him, perhaps disappointed that Jon had not argued. "Your lady's sister sent riders." Jon noticed 3 Stark guards beside pack horses near the valley mouth. Sansa had anticipated him again. What did they say? That Winterfell calls a council. Will you come? Why should we? To decide what happens next. We decided years ago. We fought for the Ned's girl, then for the Ned's bastard, then for the dragon woman. Each time, men in halls decide where mountain blood must spill. Jon felt every eye on him. Then decide for yourselves. We do. Together? Hugo's face hardened. The clans had departed Winterfell separately after the dead fell. Some carried grievances older than the wall. A Nori hunting party had crossed wool land without permission. 3 little youths had stolen goats from Harkley shepherds. Burleys accused Stark quartermasters of taking their horses during the battle and returning none. Small disputes, southern lords might call them. In the mountains, men had killed for less. Hugo pointed toward Rhaegal. You ask us to follow a queen who rides one of those. I ask you to come to Winterfell and speak. Will she listen? Jon considered lying. No, he said. Not unless enough of us make her. Several chiefs muttered approval. Others looked alarmed. You kneel to her, Hugo said. I did. Then you speak with her voice. I speak with mine. And what name does that voice bear? Snow? Stark? Targaryen? The last name echoed among the rocks. Jon turned towards Sansa's envoys. They looked equally surprised. He had not told the clans. Someone else had. Rumors flew faster than dragons. Who told you? Jon asked. Hugo shrugged. A raven tells a maester tells a wife tells a sister. Soon every shepherd knows what kings call secret. The old chief stepped closer. Is it true? Jon looked at the carved face of the weirwood. He had denied nothing when Sam and Bran revealed his birth, but neither had he proclaimed it. Silence had seemed safer. Now silence had become another kind of lie. My mother was Lyanna Stark, he said. My father was Rhaegar Targaryen. The valley held its breath. A younger wolf spat. Dragon spawn. An old Liddle struck him across the mouth. His mother was of Winterfell. His father stole her. They were wed, Jon said. The words felt unreal. Hugo's eyes narrowed. Then the Iron Throne is yours. I don't want it. Laughter broke around the circle, not mocking so much as disbelieving. No man wants a throne until someone else sits it, a Nori chief said. I've worn a crown. Then gave it away. Jon's shame rose, but he held their gaze. I chose the living over my pride. Did you choose us? Hugo asked. Or did you choose her? The question stripped away every defense. Jon had knelt to Daenerys because he believed she would save the North. He had also admired her, desired her, and wanted to believe her vision of a better world. Those truths had tangled until he could no longer tell where duty ended and love began. I chose what I thought was right. That is not an answer. It's the only one I have. Snow began falling through the red leaves. Hugo walked around Jon slowly. If you seek our oath, earn it as our fathers did. How? You will walk the high path. A murmur passed through the clans. One of Sansa's men whispered, that road is closed. Hugo heard. Then the wolf may fly home. Jon glanced toward Rhaegal. The dragon could carry him over every mountain in minutes. Accepting the challenge would cost time he did not possess. Daenerys' 10 days were nearly gone. Winterfell waited. The South prepared for war. What is the high path? Jon asked. Hugo smiled, showing several missing teeth. A place where a dragon cannot save you. They departed before noon. The path climbed along the mountain face, narrow enough that men walked in single file. Jon traveled without his sword or heavy cloak because Hugo had not returned them. Clan chiefs surrounded him, while their people followed with sledges, livestock, and children. They were not merely testing him. They were moving entire settlements out of valleys where food had run out. Rhaegal followed above, gliding from ridge to ridge. Each time he descended, Hugo ordered Jon to continue on foot. A king's road belongs under his boots, he said. I'm not a king. Then stop reminding us. The climb lasted hours. Wind drove needles of ice through Jon's clothes. His fingers numbed. More than once the trail vanished beneath drifts, and clan guides found it by recognizing stones no different from any others. Jon spoke with them as they walked. A woman named Morna told him 6 children had died from fever because Winterfell's maesters remained with the armies. A Harkley herder explained that soldiers had slaughtered breeding goats for meat. Little men had grain hidden in cave stores but refused to share it after wolves seized one of their hunting grounds. Each grievance formed another crack. Jon began arranging exchanges as he had at White Harbor. Little grain for wool labor. Winterfell maesters rotating through mountain settlements. Manderley iron delivered by the White Knife. Clan scouts maintaining beacon towers through the passes. The chiefs resisted every suggestion. Then they altered the terms. By sunset, they had created half a plan while insisting it was entirely their own. The path narrowed beneath a hanging shelf of snow. Rhaegal landed on the ridge above and growled. Hugo looked upward. Your beast senses weather. He senses something. A crack rang across the mountain. Every goat began screaming. The snowfield above them shifted. Run! Someone shouted. There was nowhere to run. The trail curved around a cliff. Families crowded against the rock face as the slope broke loose. Snow rolled downward in a swelling white wall, carrying stones, shattered trees, and slabs of ice. Jon looked toward Rhaegal. The dragon leapt from the ridge. He struck the trail ahead of the avalanche, claws tearing into stone. His wings opened across the path. One pressed against the mountain, the other angled above the column of people. Snow hit. The world vanished. The impact drove Rhaegal sideways. Jon threw himself over a child as ice and branches tore through the air. The dragon roared beneath the weight, wings shuddering, green scales disappearing under white. For several endless moments, Jon could see nothing but darkness and snow. Then Rhaegal heaved. His wing rose. People crawled from beneath it, coughing and crying. The dragon had split the avalanche around the trail. Snow surged past both sides and plunged into the ravine, leaving the center buried only waist-deep. Rhaegal's left wing sagged. Blood darkened the membrane where a branch had pierced it. Jon forced his way through the drift and placed both hands against the dragon's neck. Rhaegal trembled with pain and anger. You saved them, Jon whispered. The dragon's eye rolled toward him. Hugo emerged carrying a little girl. Half the old chief's beard had been torn away by ice. He stared at Rhaegal. The beast knew, he said. Hey, and chose to stand. He did. Hugo set the girl down and approached carefully. Rhaegal growled, smoke passing between his teeth. The old man removed one glove. Jon almost warned him away. Hugo placed his hand against a single green scale. We remember our debts, he said. That night the clans camped beneath an overhang. They treated Rhaegal's wing with boiled water, pine resin, linen, and more courage than caution. The dragon snapped at 3 men and scorched Hugo's cloak, but no one retreated. Around the fires, the chiefs agreed to attend Winterfell's council. Not because Jon commanded them. Not because Daenerys required their soldiers. They would come because the North had called, and because a creature they had named Foreign had used its body as a shield. Hugo returned Longclaw before dawn. You may fly now. Jon fastened the sword. I thought a dragon couldn't save me here. The old chief looked toward the families sleeping beneath Rhaegal's wounded wing. Wasn't you he saved? Jon mounted carefully, keeping weight from the injury. As Rhaegal climbed away from the mountains, horns sounded below. Clan after clan took up the call until the valley rang. Jon had heard northern horns signal war, retreat, death, and the arrival of kings. This call was different. It told scattered families that the high path was open. Moat Cailin rose from the marsh like the broken teeth of a drowned giant. 3 ruined towers guarded the causeway, their stones green with moss and black with water. Mist drifted between them. Frogs called from pools that could swallow armored horses. Somewhere beyond sight, crannogmen moved through reeds without disturbing a single bird. Rhaegal disliked the neck. The ground offered no firm place to land. The air smelled of rot, and clouds of insects gathered around his eyes. He circled the towers twice before settling atop the gatehouse tower, dislodging stones that splashed into the marsh below. Jon found Bran waiting in the courtyard. His brother sat beneath a canvas awning beside Mira Reed, 2 Stark guards, and a cart whose wheels were thick with mud. Ravens crowded the walls around him. Jon stopped. "You came south." Bran looked toward Rhaegal. "You came north, east, west, and south. It seemed simpler to wait where the roads meet." "Maya, how did you know I would come?" "The same way you knew you must." It was the kind of answer Bran gave now, one that sounded wise until Jon tried to hold it. Mira rose. Time in the marsh had changed her. She was leaner than when Jon last saw her, her hair cut at the jaw, her leather armor marked by travel. Grief lived quietly in her face. "My father is near," she said. "Howland Reed." She nodded. Jon had wanted to meet him since learning the truth. Howland had stood beside Ned at the Tower of Joy. He had known Lyanna, witnessed her death, and carried secrets for 2 decades. Why didn't he come to Winterfell? Crannogmen survive by letting larger men forget us. And now? Now larger men remember the neck exists. She looked toward the southern causeway. An army cannot invade the north without passing here. A kingdom cannot feed itself if the road closes. Father says every lord speaks of crowns while the stones beneath them sink. Bran's ravens lifted together. Figures emerged from the mist. Crannogmen seemed made from the marsh itself. They wore mottled cloaks and carried short spears, nets, bows, and bundles of reeds. At their center walked a small, gray-haired man leaning upon a staff of pale wood. Howland Reed did not resemble the heroic companion of Ned Stark from Singer's Tales. He was slight, bent with age, and dressed more like a hunter than a lord. Yet, everyone in the courtyard fell silent when he entered. His eyes found Jon at once. For a long moment, he simply looked. "You have her face when anger leaves it," Howland said. Jon's throat tightened. "My mother, Lyanna." He wanted to ask 100 questions. What had she sounded like? Had she been frightened? Did she regret leaving Winterfell? Had she loved Rhaegar? Had she spoken his name before dying? Instead, he asked, "Why did you keep it secret?" "Because your uncle asked me. He let me believe I was his shame. He let the world believe it. That is why you lived." Jon knew this. Understanding did not silence the old wound. Howland reached beneath his cloak and removed a small object wrapped in oilskin. Inside lay a thin circlet of blackened silver, broken at one side, bearing a 3-headed dragon no larger than Jon's thumbnail. "This was tied around their hands," Howland said. "A token used during the vows. Your uncle wanted it destroyed. But you kept it." Ned was an honorable man. Honorable men sometimes ask others to carry what they cannot bear. Howland placed the broken circlet in Jon's palm. It weighed almost nothing. Yet the courtyard seemed to tilt beneath it. Witnesses had gathered along the causeway. Crannogmen, Stark guards, clan riders who had followed from the mountains, Manderly messengers, and soldiers from Carhold. Jon saw the knowledge pass among them. The secret was no longer a secret. Bran said, "It was never meant to remain one." Jon closed his fingers around the silver. "You told Sam. I helped him understand. You told Sansa. I told my family. And now half the North knows." "Yes." Anger rose so quickly Jon stepped toward him. "You had no right." Bran did not move. "Neither did the men who named you a bastard. That doesn't make this yours to give away." "No, it makes it yours to face." Jon turned aside. Rhaegal shifted atop the tower. Stones grated beneath his claws. Howland watched the dragon. Rhaegar named him for his brother. Daenerys did. And now he carries Rhaegar's son. I am not my father. Few sons are. Jon looked at the causeway stretching south through the marsh. Daenerys believes this truth will turn the North against her. Will it? I won't let it. Paolin smiled without pleasure. Men who believe they can prevent history are those most often used by it. Mira spread a map upon a fallen stone. The neck is failing. She showed Jon channels where old bridges had collapsed, causeways flooded by recent storms, and watch posts abandoned during the war. Moat Cailin could stop a southern army, but it could also trap the north if trade failed. Refugees moving north had stripped nearby settlements of food. Bandits used hidden paths through the marsh. Several Crannogman families had vanished. Golden Company scouts have reached the southern edge, Mira said. Jon looked up. How many? Small groups, measuring roads, asking fishermen which towers remain manned. Cersei was looking north. Perhaps she feared Daenerys' armies. Perhaps she feared Jon's name. Either way, the North's ancient gate stood nearly empty. How many fighters can House Reed provide? Jon asked. How many can Winterfell feed? Howland countered. White Harbor is sending grain. Then we can place 500 along the causeway within 6 days. More if the clans hold the western paths. The clans are coming to Winterfell. Send half here afterward. Jon looked at the ruined towers. The Manderless can bring stone by barge. Glovers provide timber. Free folk know how to build quickly. Mira raised an eyebrow. Free folk in the neck? They'll hate the marsh. The marsh will hate them. Then they'll understand each other. Howland's faint smile returned. They worked through the day. By evening, messengers carried orders north, though Jon avoided calling them orders. Each house received a request tied to something it needed from another. Manderley stone, in exchange for Reed protection of river traffic. Glover timber in exchange for clan scouts guarding Deepwood's mountain roads. Free folk labor in exchange for land near the restored towers. The pattern had become clear. No house could rebuild alone. The North had spent centuries celebrating independence while surviving through deaths rarely acknowledged. Mountain wool warmed harbor merchants. Manderley grain fed frontier keeps. Umber watchfires protected Karstark fields. Crannogmen guarded the road that carried everything. Jon did not need to create unity. He needed to make them see the unity already holding them above ruin. At sunset, Bran found him atop the Children's Tower. The broken silver circlet remained in Jon's hand. You are angry, Bran said. I trusted you. You still can. You speak as though you're not my brother. I am your brother. Then, act like it. For the first time, pain touched Bran's face. Small and quickly hidden, but real. I remember being Bran, he said. I remember climbing these walls in dreams before I ever saw them. I remember wanting to be a knight. Those memories do not leave. They are joined by others. Sometimes I don't know whether I'm speaking to you or to all the dead. Neither do I. Jon's anger loosened. Below them, Howland's people lit lamps along the causeway. One by one, flames appeared through the mist, marking a road that had been invisible. Will Daenerys burn King's Landing? Jon asked. Bran watched the ravens. The future is not a road already built. That is not what you used to say. I used to know less. Jon almost laughed, but the sound would not come. What happens if I claim the throne? People die. What happens if I refuse it? People die. Then what use is knowing? Bran turned pale eyes toward him. To choose which deaths you can live with. Jon looked south. Daenerys would be waiting, her patience exhausted. Sansa would be gathering lords. Varys and Tyrion would be measuring every rumor. The North had begun to move, but not toward the simple obedience the Queen desired. A raven landed beside Bran. He removed the message from its leg and passed it to Jon. The seal was black wax, marked by a 3-headed dragon. Return to Winterfell. The 10 days are ended. Jon read the words twice. Will you go? Bran asked. Yes. To obey? Jon folded the parchment around the broken wedding circlet. To answer. Rhaegal launched from the tower at dawn. His wounded wing held, though each beat remained uneven. Below, crannogmen emerged in hundreds from hidden homes, carrying tools and weapons toward Moat Cailin. Clan riders moved north with requests for timber and stone. Ravens flew in every direction. The neck had been a place of fog and isolation. Now its roads glimmered with lamps. As Rhaegal climbed, Jon saw the north not as castles separated by impossible distance, but as lines drawn between them. Rivers, roads, debts, marriages, grudges, memories, and need. A web could be fragile. It could also catch giants. The Dreadfort raised Bolton colors again 3 days before Jon returned to Winterfell. Cara Karstark's raven found him above the Barrowlands. The message was tied with red thread and written in a hurried hand. Bolton men have taken the castle. Farmers held within. They claim the Dragon Queen will burn the north and call for true northern lords to rise. Jon read it while Rhaegal glided beneath darkening clouds. The rebellion was small, perhaps 200 armed men, many former Bolton retainers who had vanished after Ramsay's defeat. Under ordinary circumstances, Winterfell might have starved them out. These were not ordinary circumstances. Every hour the flayed banners flew. Frightened houses might believe the north was dividing again. Every dragon sighting gave the rebels another tale. Jon had sold the country to a foreign queen. The Starks had surrendered their birthright. Southern armies would seize northern land, and dragons would consume anyone who resisted. Lies became dangerous when built around truths people already feared. Jon turned Rhaegal east. Kharis riders encircled the Dreadfort when he arrived. Fires dotted the fields. No siege engine stood ready, and the castle's black walls rose from the riverbank untouched. Rhaegal landed among the Karstark camp. Men cheered at first. Then they saw Jon's face and fell silent. Cara met him beside the command tent. She had inherited Carhold too young. Brothers and father became casualties of war and vengeance. The burden had made her stern without hardening her completely. They hold at least 400 small folk, she said. Pulled them from nearby farms before closing the gates. To use as shields. To feed themselves. The Dreadfort stores are empty. Nay, who leads them? Sir Donal Slate, Bolton Master-at-Arms under Ramsay. I thought he died. So did he. Jon studied the walls. Figures crowded the battlements. Many carried bows. Others held farming tools, likely prisoners forced to appear as defenders. A black flag rose above the gate. A man stepped onto the wall and shouted through a bronze horn. Jon Snow, bastard of Winterfell, betrayer of the North. Karstark archers raised bows. Jon lifted one hand. Donal continued. You bring the dragon that will place southern chains upon our children. Burn us then. Show every true northerner what you have become. Now me, Rhaegal growled. Jon saw the trap. If he burned the Dreadfort, the rebellion ended before nightfall. It would also prove every warning Donal had spread. The North would remember flames rising above a castle filled with its own people. What are their demands? Jon asked. Cara handed him a parchment. The rebels demanded Daenerys leave the north, Sansa declared queen. Jon renounced his Targaryen blood. The free folk returned beyond the wall, and every former Bolton man received pardon. They used Sansa's name, Jon said. She sent no support. Some will believe she did. Cara glanced toward the western road. The Dragon Queen may. Jon imagined Daenerys reading the demands. Her suspicion of Sansa required little feeding. Has Winterfell answered? No raven returned. That troubled him. A horn sounded behind the camp. A lone rider approached wearing a dark cloak. The hood fell as she dismounted. Arya looked at Rhaegal, then at the Dreadfort. "You took too long," she said. Jon embraced her before remembering half the camp watched. "What are you doing here?" "Sansa sent me." "To negotiate?" Arya's smile contained no comfort. "Something like that." Inside the tent, she spread a rough plan of the Dreadfort across the table. It showed forgotten drains, a postern near the river, servant passages, and a narrow shaft leading into the kennels. "How do you have this?" Kara asked. "People who escape bad places remember the exits." Jon examined the postern. "Too narrow for armored men." "I'm not armored." "No." Arya raised one eyebrow. That sounded like a command. It was. "You're still pretending not to be a king? This isn't a game." "No, that's why I came." Jon looked at the walls again. 400 hostages and 200 rebels. One alarm and they start killing prisoners. Then I won't raise one. He knew what Arya could do. He had seen only fragments, but enough to understand she moved through danger in ways no ordinary fighter could. That knowledge did not make sending his sister alone easier. "We wait for darkness," he said. Donald did not. Before sunset, the rebels pushed 20 prisoners onto the battlements. Ropes bound their hands. A woman held a baby beneath her cloak. Donald's horn carried across the field. "Leave before nightfall, or one dies for every hour you remain." Kara swore. Rhaegal paced, feeling Jon's anger. Jon mounted. "What are you doing?" Arya asked. "Giving you away inside." He guided Rhaegal into the sky. Arrows rose from the walls as they approached. Most fell short. Others shattered against scales. Rhaegal answered with a roar that shook snow from the roofs. "Not the castle," Jon warned. The dragon banked. A wooden siege tower stood abandoned near the southern wall, left from an older battle. Jon directed Rhaegal toward it. Green fire poured downward. The tower vanished inside flame. Heat rolled across the field. Rebels ducked behind stone. Every eye within the Dreadfort turned south. Arya disappeared toward the river. Jon circled again, keeping the defenders' attention. Rhaegal struck empty ground with flame, carved a burning line across the road, and shattered a stone bridge after Jon confirmed no one stood upon it. He showed the castle what the dragon could do. He also showed what Jon chose not to do. Donald dragged the woman with the baby closer to the edge. "You have no courage," he shouted. "Burn us." Jon landed Rhaegal directly before the gate. The dragon's head rose nearly level with the battlements. Jon stood in the saddle. "If I wanted you dead, you would be smoke." Donald pressed a knife near the woman's throat. "Then perhaps you are weaker than they say." "No, I know the difference between strength and fear." The gate captain laughed too loudly. Jon's eyes searched the wall. A figure moved behind Donald. Arya wore a servant's cloak now. She passed 2 guards without drawing notice, head lowered, carrying a bucket. Jon continued speaking. "You want the North to fear Daenerys. You want them to fear dragons, free folk, southern soldiers, and every neighbor who survived differently than you. Fear is all House Bolton ever offered. We offered order. You offered cages." Donald's knife shifted. Arya dropped the bucket. Water spread across the stones. Donald turned. She struck his wrist, took the knife, and placed it against his throat before the nearest guard understood she had moved. Chaos erupted. Prisoners threw themselves down. Karstark horns sounded. Men inside the courtyard rushed toward the inner gate. Someone raised the portcullis halfway before fighting broke out around the winch. Jon urged Rhaegal forward. The dragon seized the outer gate between his jaws and tore one side from its hinges. Karstark riders charged through the opening. Jon remained above them, shouting for restraint. "Prisoners among them, take surrender." The battle ended quickly. Bolton loyalists had expected dragonfire or starvation, not their own captives rising behind them. Many threw down weapons when they saw Donald captured. Others fled into cellars and were dragged out by farmers they had imprisoned. Kara found Jon in the courtyard. 23 dead, she said. Most rebels. 7 prisoners. 7. A victory by every measure commanders used. 7 families would not call it one. Donald knelt beneath the old flaying post, hands bound. Blood ran from his nose. Arya stood behind him. "Execute me," he told Jon. "Prove you are Ramsay with a prettier name." Jon looked at the gathered prisoners. What did he do? Voices answered. Murder. Theft. Torture. Homes burned. Children threatened. Men hanged for refusing service. Donald smiled as each accusation came. He wanted death before witnesses. Martyrdom would turn a failed rebellion into a story. Jon saw it clearly. "You will face judgment at Winterfell," he said. The smile vanished. "By the Dragon Queen. By the people you harmed." Donald spat at his boots. "Coward, Dorse." Jon turned away. The black banners came down before midnight. Kara ordered the old Bolton cloth burned in the courtyard, but Jon stopped her. "Send them to every house that received Donald's ravens." "For what purpose?" "With the names of the prisoners we freed." Truth needed banners too. Inside the Great Hall, survivors ate from Karstark stores. Arya sat beside Jon on the dais once occupied by Roose and Ramsay. "You should return," she said. "To Winterfell? To Daenerys?" "You sound like Sansa." "She sounds like herself. I sound like me." "What did she tell you?" "That the Queen has ordered her armies south tomorrow. That northern lords are arriving faster than Winterfell can house them. That Varys asks too many questions about you. That Tyrion drinks whenever your name is mentioned." "Nani?" Jon rubbed his face. "And Sansa. She wants you home before someone decides what you are without you." Jon stared at the Dreadfort's walls. They had been built to project power through cruelty. For generations, people obeyed because they imagined what happened beneath these stones. Rhaegal slept in the courtyard among those same people. Children had begun placing scraps of meat near his claws. "I thought uniting them meant reminding them of the enemy," Jon said. "Cersei? Anyone. The dead. The Boltons. The South." "No." Arya leaned back. "Fear unites people until the thing they fear is gone. What lasts?" She considered. "Knowing who comes when you call." At dawn, Jon and Rhaegal departed for Winterfell. Kara rode below with freed prisoners, Bolton banners folded beneath her saddle. Messages flew ahead from the Dreadfort Bear Island, White Harbor, Moat Cailin, the mountain valleys, Carhold, and the Last Hearth. Jon had failed Daenerys' deadline. He had also done what 10 days could not measure. Across the north, roads filled with people traveling toward one place. Not because a queen commanded them, because, for the first time since the dead came, they believed someone might hear what they had to say. Winterfell had become a city. Tents stretched beyond the rebuilt gate. Horses filled the eastern fields. Cook fires burned beneath the walls, each surrounded by men and women wearing the colors of houses Jon had visited. Manderley wagons stood beside umber sledges. Mountain goats wandered among veiled destriers. Free folk children chased northern hounds through the snow. Banners crowded every tower. The crowned stag of House Hornwood, the sunburst of Karstark, the mailed fist of Glover, the bear of Mormont, newly sown, the merman of White Harbor, clan emblems painted upon hide and wood. Stark, direwolves, Targaryen dragons. From above, they seemed less like an army than a gathering of every argument the North had ever possessed. Rhaegal announced his return with a roar. Thousands looked upward. Jon saw Daenerys in the courtyard before the dragon landed. She stood beside Drogon wearing a fitted black coat and the red cloak of her house. Grey Worm waited behind her with unsullied spears. Tyrion, Varys, Sansa, Arya, Bran, Davos, and the Northern Lords formed 2 uneasy groups. Rhaegal touched down between them. No one cheered. Jon dismounted. Daenerys approached slowly. "You were commanded to return 3 days ago." The word commanded moved through the listeners. Jon kept his voice low. The Dreadfort rebelled. I heard. I also heard you spared traitors who raised arms against my rule. They held prisoners. You have a dragon. That's why I spared them. Her eyes flickered toward Rhaegal. You presume authority over what my dragon should do. He chose me as his rider. I gave you permission to ride him. The distinction cut deeper than Jon expected. Rhaegal raised his head. Drogon answered with a growl. The two dragons faced one another across the courtyard, black and green, smoke rising from their jaws. Soldiers began stepping back. Daenerys did not. Inside, she said. The chamber prepared for their meeting had once belonged to Ned. Jon recognized the heavy table, the narrow windows, and marks upon the wall where a map of the North had hung during his childhood. A fire burned too brightly in the hearth. Daenerys entered with Tyrion, Grey Worm, and Varys. Jon came with Sansa, Davos, Arya, and Bran. It was not arranged deliberately. That made the division worse. Daenerys noticed it. This is a private council. Sansa removed her gloves. The North has assembled for a public one to try. I did not summon them. Jon did. I invited them, Jon said. Daenerys looked at him. Without consulting me. They would not march otherwise. They are here. Order them to prepare. No. The single word exhausted whatever patience remained between them. Grey Worm's hand tightened on his spear. Arya shifted her weight. Davos inhaled sharply. Daenerys' face became very calm. Leave us. No one moved. Jon turned to the others. Please. Sansa met his gaze. He knew she wanted to remain. After a moment, she led the northern group out. Tyrion gestured for Grey Worm and Varys to follow. When the door closed, Daenerys stood beside the fire with her back to Jon. I loved you, she said. The past tense hurt more than anger. I love you. You fear saying it where they can hear. I fear what they'll do with anything I say. She turned. They have already done it. Everywhere you went, they called you king. Nay. Some did. And you corrected them? Every time. Yet they followed. They followed because I came. Precisely. Her eyes shone, though no tears fell. I brought armies across the I lost my closest friend, my protector, half the people who trusted me, and a child I raised from birth. Still they look at me and see a foreign conqueror. You fly over a village, speak a few honest words, and they place their hearts in your hands. Jon stepped toward her. She stepped away. That isn't what I wanted. One has nothing to do with it. I've promised them nothing against you. You promised a council where they could decide whether to obey me. A ruler who cannot hear them will never hold the North. I came to save them, and they know that. Do they? Her voice broke. Do you? Jon remembered Viserion falling beyond the wall, Jorah dying in her arms, Dothraki riders vanishing into darkness, unsullied ranks holding while the dead overwhelmed them. Whatever else lay between them, the North lived partly because Daenerys had chosen to fight. I do, he said. I'll never forget. Then stand with me tomorrow. Tell them we march south under one queen. They aren't ready. They will never be ready if readiness means loving me as they love you. It means knowing what they fight for the destruction of Cersei. That's your war. Her expression hardened. Jon continued before courage failed him. The dead were everyone's enemy. Cersei is yours. She is an enemy to every person who would live free of tyranny. Most northern farmers have never seen her. They know only that their homes are ruined, and another southern war asks for their sons. Surely. Daenerys crossed the distance between them. I answered your call without demanding the North love me first. You demanded I bend the knee, after offering everything. And I bent it. Then act as though the oath matters. It matters. But I won't force starving men into a war they didn't choose. You will not force them, or you cannot. Jon understood. This was not only about soldiers. Daenerys needed him to prove he remained beneath her authority. Every concession to the North looked like a step toward his own crown. I don't want the Iron Throne. You say it as though wanting is the only path to taking. I'll renounce the claim before every lord. And when they refuse to accept your renunciation? When Sansa whispers that the North should support the rightful heir? When Varys tells the realm you are better loved? Varys serves you. He serves what he believes is best for the realm. The fire cracked behind her. Jon realized she had already seen something in Varys. A question asked too carefully. A look held too long. What do you want from me? He asked. The truth hidden. Too late. Then deny it. I can't deny my mother. Daenerys' mouth tightened. There. At last a tea. What? You choose Stark blood over mine. They are both mine. And the throne is yours. Say it tomorrow. I will. And command the north-south. Jon looked through the narrow window. Beyond the glass, Rhaegal and Drogon stood at opposite ends of the yard. Between them moved thousands of people Jon had asked to trust him. No, he said. Daenerys closed her eyes. When she opened them, something had gone quiet inside her. Then you break your oath. I'm keeping the reason I made it. I knelt so you would help protect my people. I did not promise to stop protecting them afterward. I am their queen. Tomorrow they'll tell you whether they believe that. The door opened. Tyrion entered without permission, holding a cup he had forgotten to drink from. Your Grace, the lords are gathering in the Great Hall. Daenerys did not look away from Jon. Let them wait. They have waited through several kings, one civil war, an occupation, 2 battles for Winterfell, and an invasion of the dead. I fear another hour may finally exhaust them. Neither smiled. Tyrion set down the cup. There may be a path between surrender and rebellion. Speak, Daenerys said. The North enters the war as an allied realm. Its forces remain under Northern command. In return, its leaders recognize you as Queen of the 7 Kingdoms, until a final settlement after Cersei's defeat. Sansa had likely given him the language. Daenerys recognized that too. A queen until they decide otherwise. A postponement, Tyrion said. A humiliation. A coalition. Jon watched her face. Come to the council. Hear them. I have heard enough. No, you've heard lords demanding. Hear what they've lost. She looked toward the door. Outside, voices filled Winterfell, thousands woven into one low sound. Daenerys had ruled cities where former slaves lifted her above crowds. She understood the power of being seen among those who suffered. Yet here, admiration would not be given before trust. Jon offered his hand. She looked at it. For a moment he remembered the cave at Dragonstone, the flight beyond the wall, the waterfall where the world had seemed briefly distant. He remembered believing they might create something together because both understood loneliness. Daenerys did not take his hand, but she walked beside him. The Great Hall could not contain everyone. Lords and captains filled every bench, while common delegates stood along the walls and crowded the open doors. Fires burned in iron braziers. Snow melted from hundreds of cloaks. When Daenerys entered, the room fell silent. Jon walked one pace behind her. Some noticed. Sansa sat beneath the direwolf banner but had left the central chair empty. Bran waited beside her. Arya stood near a pillar. Northern houses occupied one side of the hall. Daenerys commanders the other. Rhaegal roared outside. Drogon answered. Jon stepped into the empty space between queen and country. He had spent years believing unity meant persuading people to follow one leader. Looking around the hall, he understood his mistake. Unity did not erase divisions. It gave divided people a reason to remain in the room. The first voice belonged to no lord. Mara of the Last Hearth stepped forward, carrying the strip of boiled horsehide she had shown Wyman Manderly. She placed it upon the central table before Daenerys. "My queen," she said, though the title came reluctantly. "This fed 4 children." Daenerys looked at the leather. Mara told the hall about the dead crossing Umber lands. She spoke of hiding beneath kitchens, hearing doors break above her, and emerging to find every field empty. She spoke of the free folk who arrived with food when no castle answered. When she finished, Tormund stood. He told them the free folk had lost their homes twice, once to the dead, once when the wall fell. The North allowed them through but offered little land and less trust. "We fought beside you," he said. "Now some call us thieves for hunting in forests where no living lord remains." Harlan Umber answered from the benches. "You hunted there before the dead." "Hey, we were thieves then." A few people laughed. The sound loosened something in the hall. Lyessa spoke next. She did not ask pardon for Bear Island or praise the Queen. She described Lyanna's death without songs or glory. A child had carried the burden of adults because adults admired her courage more than they feared its cost. Galbart Glover rose after her. He confessed his house had not come to Winterfell. Angry voices erupted. He waited until they faded. "I chose the people behind my walls," he said. "I told myself that was duty. Perhaps it was. Perhaps it was fear wearing duty's cloak. Either way, others died where my men did not." He turned toward Lyessa. No formal apology came. He bowed his head. She returned the gesture. One by one, the North spoke. Wyman described ships lost feeding inland armies. Hugo Wool demanded maesters for mountain settlements. Kara asked who would restore fields trampled by cavalry. Howland warned that Moat Cailin stood open. A fisherman accused Manderly tax collectors of taking half his catch. A Karstark widow demanded compensation for a horse seized by the Unsullied. Grey Worm replied that his men had received no fodder from Winterfell. The accusation nearly became a fight. Jon did not silence them. Daenerys sat rigid at first. She was accustomed to councils where petitioners came before a ruler one at a time. Here, every grievance tangled with another. No decree could satisfy all. Tyrion whispered to her occasionally. She ignored him more often than not. Sansa spoke little. She had already shaped much of what occurred. Delegates from villages did not appear in noble councils by accident. Neither did rival houses find themselves seated side by side without someone arranging the benches. Jon let the arguments continue until voices became hoarse. Then he stepped forward. "I told many of you I could offer no crown," he said. "Some believed that humility, others believed cowardice. Most believed I was lying." Several lords shifted. "I knelt to Daenerys because I believed her strength could save the living. I do not regret asking her to come. Without her armies and dragons, none of us would be standing here." He turned toward her. Daenerys held his gaze. "The North owes her a debt," Jon continued. "But a debt is not slavery. Gratitude is not silence. And allegiance cannot mean surrendering the duty every leader here owes to those who place trust in them." Murmurs spread. He took the crowned wolf's signet from his cloak. The northern lords had given it to him when they named him king. He had carried it even after bending the knee, uncertain whether keeping it was sentiment or dishonesty. Jon placed it on the table. Then he unfolded Howland's oilskin and set the broken Targaryen wedding circlet beside it. "My name is Jon. I was raised as Ned Stark's bastard. I was born to Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen. By southern law, that may give me a claim to the Iron Throne." The hall erupted. Many had heard. Hearing him confirm it changed rumor into fact. Daenerys remained motionless. Jon raised his voice. "I renounce that claim." Silence struck harder than the uproar. "I will not seek the Iron Throne. I will not permit any man or woman to raise an army in my name for it. Daenerys is the queen I swore to follow." Sansa's face revealed nothing. Varys looked down. "But the North cannot be held together by my oath alone. You chose me once, and I gave away a crown that was not mine to give without your voice." This admission cost him more than he expected. He had defended the choice to himself for months. Necessity had demanded it. The dead were coming. Daenerys had risked everything. Yet the lords had not made him king so he could decide alone when their kingdom ended. I was wrong. No one moved. Jon looked at Lyessa, Galbart, Hugo, Wyman, Cara, Howland, Harlan, Tormund, and delegates whose names he had only recently learned. "I cannot undo it. I can refuse to repeat it." He unrolled a parchment across the table. Sansa had helped compose it, though the principles came from every agreement forged during Jon's journey. The North will create shared winter stores at White Harbor, Winterfell, Deepwood Moat, Carhold, and Moat Cailin. No house will hold grain while another starves without bringing the matter before this council. Every region will maintain roads, rivers, or watchtowers that serve the whole. Houses benefiting from them will share the cost. Free folk who fought for the living may settle unclaimed lands, keep their customs, and choose their own leaders, provided they obey the same peace as every northern house. No child will be required to lead soldiers. No lord may answer a foreign war until his people are fed and represented. Any ruler claiming the North's allegiance must defend its people and hear this council before demanding its blood. Daenerys spoke. "You write conditions for obeying your queen." Jon turned toward her. "I write the conditions under which the North can survive having won." Grey Worm stiffened. Daenerys rose. The hall seemed to shrink around her. "In Meereen, masters asked for councils so they could preserve their power. In Astapor, men used tradition to justify chains. Every ruler who fears change hides behind the claim that their people are different." "Nay," Sansa answered. "Our people are different. All people believe that." Daenerys descended from the dais. "When I came north, I did not ask each village whether the dead should be opposed. I acted because it was right. And saved us," Jon said. "Yet now, when I ask the same in return, you build laws around your hesitation." Mara lifted the horsehide. "We cannot eat what is right." Daenerys looked at her. For the first time, the queen's composure shifted not from anger but recognition. She had known hunger. Jon remembered the stories of her childhood, fleeing from city to city, dependent upon strangers and a brother who treated her as currency. She knew what it was to possess a name without a home. Daenerys approached Mara. "How many children remain at the Last Hearth?" 41. "How many lost parents?" "Most." Daenerys looked toward Grey Worm. "The Unsullied have wagons prepared for the southern march." "Yes, your grace. Half will carry grain north first." Grey Worm hesitated only. "As you command." The hall changed. Not entirely. Suspicion remained. One order could not erase years of fear. But Mara bowed, and this time the title came differently. "Thank you, my queen." Daenerys returned to the table. She read the covenant in silence. Tyrion approached her. "It does not deny your sovereignty. It limits it. All durable sovereignty is limited by something. Law, custom, distance, hunger, or the number of men willing to sharpen knives." She gave him a cold look. He drank. Daenerys addressed the hall. "I will accept a northern council during the war against Cersei. Your forces will remain under Jon's command. The North will supply only those soldiers its leaders judge fit to march." "No." Cheers began. She raised one hand. In return, this council recognizes me as queen. Moat Cailin opens to my armies. Northern ships join mine against Euron Greyjoy. After victory, representatives from every kingdom will gather to determine laws binding the realm. Tyrion stared at her. This went beyond his proposal. Sansa stood. And northern independence will be argued with every other question. That is not a promise. No, God. It is a chance to win through words what generations have tried to win through graves. Jon watched Sansa. She wanted certainty. The North wanted it too. History offered none. Sansa looked toward the crowded hall, measuring the mood. At last, she inclined her head. A chance, then. Jon placed a quill beside the covenant. No one signed immediately. Northern lords distrusted documents. Their oldest laws lived in memory and oath. Wyman Manderley came first, pressing his seal beneath the shared stores provision. Cara followed. Galbart and Nalessa signed beside one another. Hugo made a rough mark because he claimed letters were southern traps. Howland drew a small marsh flower. Mara signed for Last Hearth survivors. Tormund refused the quill. Free folk do not kneel to scratches. Make a mark, Jon said. Tormund cut his palm and pressed it against the parchment. Now it knows me. Others followed, though most used ink. Grey Worm signed for the Unsullied after Daenerys commanded it. Davos signed as witness. Tyrion added the hand seal. Sansa came near the end. She looked at Jon before pressing the direwolf into wax. You gave them your crown, she murmured. No, I returned what was theirs. Daenerys signed last. The three-headed dragon appeared beneath the wolf. Bear, merman, fist, sunburst, giant, marsh flower, and bloody hand. The hall erupted, not with one chant. Some cried, Queen Daenerys. Others called for House Stark. Free folk shouted Tormund's name. Mountain clans hammered cups against tables. Manderley merchants began arguing over transport before the wax cooled. It was disorderly, imperfect, and alive. Jon stepped away from the parchment. He had united the North, but not beneath himself. That was the choice no one had expected. Outside, Rhaegal and Drogon stood in the snow. When Jon entered the courtyard, the green dragon lowered his head. This time, Jon did not mistake the gesture for submission. Rhaegal was offering trust. Jon placed his hand against the warm scales. Behind him, Winterfell's gates opened. The first northern columns prepared to move, not south to war, but outward toward roads, keeps, ports, mountains, and marshes that needed rebuilding. Soldiers carried shovels beside spears. Grain wagons traveled under mixed banners. Unsullied marched toward the Last Hearth while free folk builders headed for Moat Cailin. The North had not become one people. It had become many people willing to carry one another's burdens. For Jon, that was enough. For the enemies watching beyond its borders, it would prove far more dangerous than a crown. Cersei's answer came before the first Northern Company reached the neck. Euron's ship struck White Harbor at dawn. The fleet appeared through sea fog beneath black sails. 30 longships and 6 heavier vessels carrying Golden Company soldiers, horses, and siege equipment. They had no intention of holding the city. Their purpose was fire. Burn the grain stores. Sink the Northern fleet. Kill enough civilians that Daenerys would be forced to divide her strength or abandon those who had sworn to her. At the same hour, mercenaries emerged south of Moat Cailin disguised as refugees. They murdered 2 sentries, seized the first bridge, and lit green signal fires meant to guide a larger force through the marsh. The attacks were separated by hundreds of leagues. The Old North would have learned of one after the other had ended. The United North answered both before midday. Beacon towers restored by the clans carried warning from Moat Cailin to the Barrowlands. Crannogmen ravens reached Winterfell within hours. Manderley fishing boats spotted the fleet and used new signal flags designed by Davos. Riders changed horses at shared supply posts established by the Covenant. News moved through the North like blood through a living body. Jon was at Winterfell when the first horn sounded. He reached the courtyard as ravens descended in a black cloud. Sansa already stood over a table carried into the open air, issuing instructions to maesters and captains. "White Harbor is the larger attack," she said. "The Neck is the gate. Lose the grain and half our agreements collapse. Lose Moat Cailin and an army enters behind us." Daenerys approached in riding leathers. Drogon waited atop the wall. "I will take the fleet," she said. Jon looked at her. No hesitation showed in her face. "Rhaegal and I can reach the Neck faster." "Then go, tidy." There was no argument over command. No demand that Jon prove submission. The Covenant had given each of them responsibilities clearer than pride. Jon mounted Rhaegal. Below, Sansa reorganized the north. Manderley reserves near Winterfell rode east. Karstark cavalry turned south. Free folk builders at the Neck became defenders. Vale Knights moved to protect the King's Road. Arya disappeared before Jon could ask where she was going. Rhaegal launched. Drogon rose beside him. For several miles, black and green dragons flew together beneath the morning clouds. Then Daenerys banked east toward the sea. Jon turned south. Moat Cailin burned when he arrived. Not the towers. The reeds. Mercenaries had set fires along the marsh to drive crannogmen from hiding. Smoke covered the causeway. Through gaps, Jon saw fighting around the first bridge. Tormund's free folk held the northern side beside mountain clans, while Golden Company soldiers advanced behind large rectangular shields. Rhaegal descended. Archers loosed. Jon pulled him upward before the arrows struck his wounded wing. The injury from the avalanche had not fully healed. Rhaegal roared in frustration. "Not the men," Jon said. "The bridge." The dragons circled behind the advancing formation. Green fire struck the empty southern span. Stone cracked. Wooden supports vanished. The center of the bridge collapsed into black water, cutting the Golden Company from reinforcements. The mercenaries already across continued forward. Jon landed behind the northern line. Tormund ran toward him, face blackened with soot. "You took your time. I flew. You should fly faster." Hugo appeared carrying an axe. "Their commander holds the gatehouse tower." "How many?" 50. Maybe more. They have barrels." "Wildfire?" "We did not ask." Jon looked toward the tower. Green flames in the marsh might have been signals, but Cersei possessed stores of wildfire. If the mercenaries brought it into Moat Cailin, dragonfire could ignite the entire ruin. Rhaegal could not attack safely. "Crannogmen know another entrance," Jon said. A voice answered from the reeds. "We know many." Mira emerged coated in mud. Behind her, hunters seemed to materialize from water. "The tower drains into the marsh," she said. "The passage is narrow." Tormund grinned. "I am narrow. You are shaped like a drunk aurochs. An elegant aurochs." Jon divided the defense. Hugo and the clans held the causeway. Free folk archers moved onto the ruined walls. Mira led Jon and Tormund through waist-deep marsh toward the drainage passage, while Rhaegal remained visible north of the tower, drawing enemy attention. The water was colder than the lands beyond the wall. They moved beneath hanging reeds and through pools concealed by green scum. Twice Jon sank to his chest. Tormund complained that southern mud was attempting to eat him. The drain opened beneath a collapsed foundation. Mira entered first. Inside, darkness pressed close. They crawled through a stone channel filled with stagnant water until voices sounded overhead. A rusted grate barred the end. Tormund braced both hands against it. The metal groaned. Jon and Mira pushed beside him. The grate tore free. They entered a cellar beneath the gatehouse tower. Barrels filled the room. Jon smelled oil, not wildfire. Relief lasted only until footsteps descended. The fight was short and brutal in the narrow space. No dragon could decide it. No crown mattered. Jon fought with mud in his eyes and water inside his boots, while Tormund laughed like a man at a feast. They reached the upper floor as Rhaegal roared outside. The mercenary captain stood at the window, signaling men across the marsh. He wore a gilded skull upon his breastplate. "You are the prince," he said when Jon entered. No. Our queen pays well for your head. Your queen pays with promises. The captain drew his sword. Jon disarmed him after 3 blows and drove him against the wall. Below, crannogmen rose from the reeds around the trapped Golden Company soldiers. Mountain clans charged across the causeway. Free folk arrows fell from the towers. The mercenary captain heard his attack collapsing. "Kill me," he said. Jon thought of Donnell Slate. "You'll live long enough to explain who sent you." By noon, Moat Cailin held. The cost was lower than it might have been because every group performed the task it knew best. Crannogmen owned the marsh. Clans held stone. Free folk fought without depending upon formations. Karstark riders arrived in time to capture men fleeing south. No single house could have won as quickly. Together they made the ancient ruin impassable. Jon climbed the gatehouse tower. Smoke covered the north. Beyond it, the King's Road stretched toward Winterfell, lined with wagons carrying stone and timber that had arrived before the attack. The work of rebuilding had become the material of defense. A raven landed beside him. White Harbor still fought. Jon descended and mounted Rhaegal. The dragon's wounded wing trembled. "You can rest," Jon whispered. Rhaegal looked east. Then he spread his wings. They reached the coast near sunset. The battle had moved into the harbor. 2 Manderly ships burned. 3 raider vessels had broken through the sea chain and landed soldiers along the western quays. Civilians fled toward the castle while armored mercenaries overturned grain carts and threw torches into warehouses. Drogon filled the sky above them. Daenerys used him with a precision Jon had rarely seen. Black fire struck the water before attacking ships, forcing them away from crowded docks. When a longship turned toward the seawall, Drogon seized its mast and tore it free rather than burn the deck packed with chained rowers. Grey Worms Unsullied held the central quay beneath locked shields. Manderly guards fought beside Karstark riders who had arrived through northern roads. Fishermen hurled stones from rooftops. Bear Island boats trapped raiders in the inner harbor. Arya moved among the streets. Jon saw her only briefly, appearing behind a Golden Company officer near a warehouse door. The man fell, and workers trapped inside escaped before flames reached the roof. Rhaegal descended beside Drogon. Daenerys looked across the gap between dragons. Jon pointed toward the 6 heavy transports beyond the harbor. Their decks held siege towers, scorpions, and barrels of pitch. Civilian rowers crowded the lower benches. "We take the weapons," he shouted. "Not the hulls." Daenerys nodded. They attacked, together. Drogon struck the first transport from above, ripping a scorpion from its mounting and dropping it into the sea. Rhaegal swept low across the second, burning only the siege frames stacked upon the upper deck. Flames rose, but sailors cut the equipment loose before the ship caught. Arrows darkened the air. Jon flattened himself against Rhaegal's neck. A bolt from a scorpion passed beneath the green dragon's body. Drogon turned toward the weapon, fire gathering in his throat. The crew abandoned it. Daenerys redirected him at the final instant. Flames struck the empty rear deck, destroying the scorpion without reaching the fleeing men. Jon understood what she had chosen. She had once spoken of using fear to break those who would not love her. Now thousands watched her possess enough power to destroy them and choose restraint. That choice traveled faster than terror. Manderly horns sounded from the seawall. Northern ships advanced in a crescent. Bear Island vessels moved among them, smaller but quicker. Their crews cast ropes across raider bows and pulled them off course. Fishermen guided warships through channels Euron's captains did not know. The Black Fleet began retreating. Daenerys could have pursued and burned them all. Instead, she landed Drogon upon the seawall and allowed northern ships to take prisoners. Jon brought Rhaegal down beside the largest grain warehouse. Part of its roof burned. The dragon used his wing to shield workers while bucket lines fought the flames. When darkness came, Wide Harbor remained standing. Its grain stores had survived. Wyman Manderley sat upon the quay wrapped in a blanket, directing repairs despite a cut across his forehead. Grey Worm organized prisoners. Arya emerged carrying a little girl separated from her mother. Sansa's first supply wagons entered the city before midnight. The Northern Council assembled in the Merman's Court the next morning. No debate was required to confirm what had happened. Messages from Moat Cailin lay beside reports from the harbor. Each named different defenders. Free folk, Unsullied, Cranugmen, Mormonts, Glovers, Carstocks, Mountain clans, Fishermen die, merchants, farmers. Daenerys stood before them. Cersei expected your divisions to make you weak, she said. She was wrong. Hugo Wool called from the benches. We are still divided. Laughter followed. Daenerys almost smiled, then remained divided together. Even Sansa allowed herself a faint smile at that. The war in the south had not ended. Cersei still held the capital. Euron still possessed ships. The Golden Company remained dangerous. Nothing had become easy. But when the Northern Army finally marched, it did not resemble the broken host Daenerys had demanded 10 days earlier. Every company left men behind to protect its home. Shared stores supported the road. Counselors traveled with the army to carry the needs of those who remained. The free folk sent volunteers rather than subjects. Unsullied wagons returned from the Last Hearth filled with northern timber and furs freely given in payment. Jon led from Rhaegal's back. Daenerys rode Drogon beside him. Sansa governed the north from Winterfell, not as a rival secretly gathering rebellion, but as the elected voice of the council. Bran watched from beneath the weirwood. Arya traveled wherever roads became dangerous. Davos commanded supply lines. Tyrion carried a copy of the Northern Covenant south, speaking of a council for every kingdom. Years later, singers claimed Jon had united the North by descending from the clouds like a king of legend. They were wrong. Rhaegal had frightened enemies, carried food, opened roads, saved ships, shielded families, and crossed distances no horse could endure. The dragon had made unity possible. He had not created it. Unity was made when an Umber opened a gate to the free folk. When a Manderley released grain he feared losing. When a Glover entered freezing water for a Mormont. When clans shared paths, Cranugmen revealed roads, and a queen chose not to burn men who defied her. It was made from 1,000 decisions no singer considered grand enough for a song. In the first spring after the wars, Jon flew north alone. Snow retreated from the fields. New roofs covered the Last Hearth. Timber ships crossed toward Bear Island. Beacon fires marked Moat Cailin's restored towers. Along the White Knife, barges carried stone beneath the protection of Reed's scouts. Children of free folk and northern farmers chased one another through villages where old boundary stones had been removed. Rhaegal climbed above the clouds. The north spread beneath them, immense and scarred, but no longer silent between its distant parts. Smoke rose from keeps. Signal mirrors flashed upon hills. Roads cut dark lines through melting snow. At every place they passed, people looked upward. Some bowed. Most waved. Jon preferred the waving. He guided Rhaegal toward Winterfell. The dragon's shadow crossed forests, rivers, mountains, farms and graves belonging to every people who had fought for the living. It no longer seemed the shadow of conquest. It was a bridge moving across the earth. Ahead, the towers of Winterfell rose against the pale horizon. Direwolf banners flew beside no royal standard. Beneath them waited a council loud enough to quarrel until sunset, and united enough to return the next morning. Rhaegal roared. Beacon fires answered from hill to hill, and the north answered as one.